Hello and welcome to The Difference. This is a radio show and podcast created for realtors, entrepreneurs, and small business owners that are looking for ways to make the difference in their careers, their business-to-business relationships, industry reputation, and in their communities. Today, I have our co-host and sponsors. I have Brian Poduska over here to my left, and across from me, I have Holly Haggard. I'm going to introduce them now. We will go ladies first today.
All right.
That's right. We're going to let Holly tell us a little bit about herself, what she does, and then we'll move on to Brian.
All right. First of all, I've got my phone turned off, my watch turned off.
Are you sure?
It is off. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Holly Haggard. My position is a mortgage loan advisor. And let me explain a little bit of how that is different from a traditional loan officer. A loan officer, they quote a rate. They close your loan. I've worked with some amazing loan officers, but quoting a rate is all they're wired to do, and that's okay. You see, everyone has a problem to solve. It may be that you're renting and you want to stop paying someone else's mortgage, or you want a bigger home because you've outgrown yours. You may want to build your investment portfolio and buy some rental properties, or maybe you own a home and you're living paycheck to paycheck. The difference I make as a mortgage advisor is I take a look at your entire situation, and then I find a solution where the outcome is better than you thought it needed to be. Sometimes a rate is only a portion of the solution, and that's where you need a mortgage advisor, not just a loan officer. I also put together a financial plan that will take you through the next 5 to 10 or 20 years, and that builds your net worth so you can retire early, put your kids through college with no debt, or help out a parent that needs extra care.
Awesome. And Holly, how long have you been in the mortgage industry?
I've been in the mortgage industry for over 18 years.
Wow.
Since 2001.
Okay. So you made it through the tough part.
I did.
All right. Not a lot of people can say that.
Well, it was rough.
Yeah.
It was definitely rough.
Absolutely. We got Brian down
Sorry,
there.
I'm causing the
Oh, it's your
technical
turn. It's your
issues this
turn.
week, so figured I'd take the reins from you, Holly.
Thanks.
took the pressure off. Brian, tell us a little bit about you and Real Property Management.
Yeah, good morning. Well, I guess this afternoon now. I am Brian Poduska, owner of Real Property Management Focus, where we focus on your real estate investments. Essentially, what we do is we work with investors big and small. So if you own one property or 50 properties, we basically help you manage it. We take the day-to-day management off of your hands through tenant placement, rent collection, maintenance coordination, eviction if necessary. And that is us in a nutshell, Real Property Management Focus.
All right. So today we're going to do a little bit of a different type of show. We're calling this Making the Difference. And so to give a little bit, I want all of the listeners and all the people that are watching to get to know our sponsors a lot better. So we're going to take time today to just talk to them about what they do, their lives, how they got started, and different things that's made the difference in their lives and their careers and how they're trying to do the same. So let's get started now. Tell me a little bit. Who wants to go first? But I just want to talk a little bit about who you are, where you got started, where you're from. Talk about your family, your hobbies, anything that you think people need to know or would find interesting. You can
I don't know if it's interesting,
Oh.
but so I grew up in Carrollton, Texas. It's not far from where we are here in the studio. My father was a police officer for, about 38 years.
Oh, wow.
I never thought he'd ever retire. And my mom was a tennis teacher. She taught Buddy Holly's wife how to play tennis.
Really?
Yes. Very, very interesting. I graduated from Newman Smith High School. I had a nail salon for about 8 years, and then I moved to Minnesota in 2001. And that's where I got into the mortgage industry. A fellow coworker asked if I wanted to join the business, and he said I would know within about 3 months if it's something I wanted to do, and here I am.
What led you to Minnesota?
A marriage.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
A different marriage.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so about 3 years later, after joining him, my best friend and I decided to open our own mortgage company. And then, 2007, 2008, just like many others in the industry, times got tough. And so I moved back home to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And the saying that goes, everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I look back, I'm grateful that I went through those hard times. I'm grateful that I was forced to move back to Texas, because a week later, that's when I met my now husband, Clay.
Awesome.
And he's amazing. We have 2 children, Jace, who just turned 8 last week, and then Emma, she'll be 7 in April. And we can't really decide if they keep us young or if they're making us old. I think it's the latter.
Right.
But I can say with all certainty that I would not change a thing in my life, not one thing, because the trials, the struggles, the successes, all the in-betweens made a difference in my life and where I am today because of it.
Okay.
Do you miss those winters up in Minnesota?
I do a little bit.
Ah.
Not so much, not every day, but we had seasons.
Right.
It wasn't summer and summer. It
Right.
was summer.
Yep.
Then fall, then winter, then spring. So
Right.
it was beautiful though.
No,
Beautiful
no,
up there.
it's God's country up there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
What about you, Brian? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So, personally, I've been married for 18 years now. I have 3 kids, 14-year-old twins, boy-girl twins, Will and Annabelle. Have a 10-year-old daughter as well. They are all extremely active in sports. So when we talk about things that make the difference in our lives, that is kind of my why. My wife of 18 years is fantastic. My kids are awesome. With all the activities they manage, we never did that as kids. So it's really impressive to see them grow up from little ones to all the stuff that they're handling now at such a young age. So that's kind of my why and why I do what I do. What I've done in the past, I've been in corporate America I was in corporate America for almost 20 years, 17 of which was with PepsiCo, various different roles across multiple different functions. Part of that time was up in Chicago, and part of that time was down here in Plano, Texas, suburb of Dallas here, and really got to see a wide range of different things through my corporate experience. 2 years ago, I started my own business. Officially got it launched earlier in 2018 in the real estate space, so property management. I had done it previously in my life with my brother and properties in our family. So I saw a need for it. Frankly, I didn't even really know it existed when we had our own properties. So I saw a need for it. I saw a need for it to be done well. And that's what kind of drove me to start the property management business in particular. I'm also very interested and driven in the real estate investment side. So that is a longer term vision to have a portfolio of my own properties. So that all those things combined kind of moved me on to where I am today.
Okay. Awesome. So both of you coming out, would you say you came out of corporate world into, or
No, when I graduated high school, I went right into doing nails. I took cosmetology in high school, and I went into doing nails.
so you
and
basically
I was
just
making
been
as much as my dad at the time, and so
Wow.
I figure, hey,
right.
and that's what I did. It was service, so I think I'm geared towards that type of work,
Okay.
service oriented.
Brian, what about you as far as, and I know you and I've had this conversation before, I think the first day that we met, but talk a little bit about the transition from corporate world into owning your own business, owning your own company, being your own boss, having employees, all the things that go along with being an entrepreneur. Tell me what you think has been the biggest challenge, maybe the biggest revelation that you've had, and some things that you've done to make that transition even better.
Yeah, no, those are great questions. There's so much that's alike and even more that's different from the corporate world to being your own boss and having your own business. I would say the biggest difference is no day is the same. You can never really shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
You go to bed
There's no
thinking
9 to 5.
no, and not that the corporate world was 9 to 5. It's different now than it used to be because with connectivity and computers and everything else, you're always kind of on point no matter what you do. But when you were in the corporate world and you were in the office, you were on all the time. You could kind of shut it off when you went home. Different when you own your own business. You're always on. You need to stay connected in some way, shape, or form. So really, the biggest challenge is trying to manage that schedule, and especially for a new business, trying to build that business and also work in the business. So work on the business, work in the business. That balance is very difficult for us to start out, right? So that's what I've found to be the biggest challenge. It's also great that you can kind of set your own calendar.
Yeah.
So it's different from the corporate world where most of the time your meetings are happening during the day. Now, yeah, you can do them telecommuting and things like that, but you can really set your own schedule as an owner of your own business.
Right.
So that's a difference that's good, but at the same time you're always on. So,
Well, it's part of that, just the assumption of the entire responsibility. Where when you're
Correct.
in corporate world or working for someone else, it's shared responsibility to a certain extent,
correct.
or at least limited in some aspects. So, with your business now, what are some things that you didn't anticipate that have been some of the biggest challenges?
For me, I came into this with a business plan that I felt was pretty well thought out. I was a finance major by trade and pretty good with Excel. At least I like to think so. So I had a nice Excel spreadsheet all done up pretty, and I had my business plan arcing up like this, and the growth was gonna not be exponential, but it was gonna it was gonna start a lot sooner than I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Or than it actually did. But what I've come to realize is that you need to build the personal relationships, and they don't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to build up the trust with other business partners to the point where that's when your business really starts taking off. So for me, that was that was different than what I had originally set up.
Well, that leads me to my next question for both of you, because I think this is really important. A self-employed entrepreneur, business owner, how you handle disappointment, because it's there. I mean, as you said, and it just triggered some thoughts of mine in different businesses that I've had. Is you've got these aspirations, you've got this vision of what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't look like that once you get in the middle of it. And I think that the people that I've noticed that's been the most successful are the ones that are the best at handling disappointment, right? Maybe it just didn't turn out the way you wanted, but you persevere, you're persistent, you stay at it, you find maybe a different mechanism or different way of approaching it so that you can reach that goal. The goal never changes.
Right.
It's just sometimes the time that it takes to get there. So tell me how you, and I would assume you, Holly, going through the roughest part of what most of us can remember in the mortgage business, 2008 through. How have you handled some of the disappointment, some of the struggles, some of the things that may not have gone exactly as planned? What has been your go-to as far as keeping your mind right, keeping your focus, and getting back on track?
I would say for me, just educating myself, learning as much as I possibly can about programs, learning how I can teach my clients, how to manage their money, how to manage their equity, how to manage their debt. Find a way for them.
Right.
I research and try to find a new way to make something happen for that borrower.
Basically have a unique opportunity for
Yes,
them that other
yeah.
people aren't offering, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. What about you, Brian?
Well, I just break stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I do.
I sit in my office and throw stuff at the wall. Kidding, obviously. No, it's for me. It's failure isn't an option, right? Because of the why that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Right.
So what it comes down to is just rethinking either how you're going about things. Where obviously as a business person, you have a marketing plan and you set out a plan and you spend your money accordingly. So by trial and error, you figure out, okay, what's paying back, what isn't paying back. Knowing some things have a longer time horizon, and feeling good about those, you stick with those things.
Mhm.
Other things you can course correct pretty quickly. So for me, it's sitting down and assessing, okay, what's going to have payback, what isn't. How I spend my time now is very different than how I spent my time when I was building the business to begin with. So that to me is, just how do you course correct, take a step back, think about what's working, what isn't working, and then move forward with what is, and even double down on that.
So in doing that, and with what both of you are saying, how important, and this is some things we've talked on previous shows, but how important is mindset? I mean, getting a very strong, persistent mindset to begin with, but then in going through some of those struggles and challenges, and that didn't work out the way I thought. That it looked different in my head than the way it's working now. How do you guys work on readjusting the mindset to stay strong?
Find the positive. There's always a positive. It doesn't matter what kind of negative there is, there's always a positive. And so if you focus just on that positive, things will turn around.
Okay,
Looking back on my life,
I agree with that.
I see, areas of my life where that you would think that was the worst time of my life. And those were the times where I was focusing on the positive and just focusing on that. And when I look back, I notice and I realize that's when I was really happy. Even when somebody would look in and say, gosh, she's got to be really sad. She's got to be really depressed. Look at her life,
Right.
look at what she's going through. But constantly focusing on something positive and making that a daily habit instead of, making it a goal. I made it a habit to think of the positive, and it just seemed like things just started falling into place. And doing that every single day has put me where I am. I try to keep myself distanced from negativity,
Right.
because I've seen how it's changed the course of my life. How certain things have happened, how business has gone, or how relationships have gone when I'm around that negativity. And when I start pushing that out with positive thoughts, it changes everything. It changes my mindset. It changes, the people around me.
Right.
It puts them in a positive place.
Right. Absolutely. One of the things I remember when I first moved to Dallas almost 30 years ago, and I was working at a fitness center. That's kind of how I got started. There was going to be some transitions, and I mean, I was at a point until I found out about the transition. I'm like, man, life is so good. Everything's just going the way just the way it's supposed to go, and then boom, you get blindsided with this. Well, we're going to do it different, and they're doing it different, and benefiting them was not going to be good for me at all. And one of the ladies that, and I really think the world of her, one of the things she said, she goes, you've got to understand that whenever there's chaos, there is opportunity. It's up to you to find it. And I will never, ever forget that. I remember looking at her, I didn't say this out loud, but I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But then I went home that night, and I just kept thinking about it. All right, so if she's right, and I trusted her, that's the thing. I believed in her. I'm like, so where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity? And a lot of times it doesn't just lay itself out on a table. You got to go. You got to go pull some layers back and find it yourself. And I did. And 6 months later, I had my own personal training gym. But had it not been for that situation, I would have stayed right where I was. I would have stayed in that comfort zone. And there's no telling. I mean, it wasn't that it was bad, but it wasn't going to allow the growth that I was forced to go out and find on my own. And I think that the positive in what you're talking about and looking for a positive, I mean, because would you guys agree that realistically in business, if you think that you're going to get on that that smooth plane upwards, without any road bumps or anything like that. That's not realistic at all.
Never happens.
There's gonna be
Show
challenges.
me one time that's happened exactly how somebody laid it out. And
But don't we get disappointed because initially, when we kind of have a bump in the road, like, gosh, why is this happening to me? Why is, if it just wasn't for these things, everything would be perfect. That's just part of the way business works, isn't it?
yeah,
Isn't
Yeah.
it our job? And I think this is the thing that a lot of people coming from corporate world, it's the biggest, I think, surprise when they get in and they realize that part of the job as a self-employed person is overcoming problems that you don't get paid for.
right.
I mean,
It-
honest to God, there's a lot of problems that we have to fix that don't bring in revenue.
I would say the majority of them. Frankly, you're right. If I was thinking about this the other day, and it was kind of a sad thought, but I was thinking about all the time that I spend and how I spend my time, trying to figure out how do I optimize that. And I was thinking about it from a dollar per hour standpoint, and I realized, yeah, a lot of the stuff I'm doing doesn't equate to revenue. And it's putting out fires. It's
Yeah.
It's stuff that down the road will and does lead to revenue. But I was thinking, man, I'm selling myself short right now. But then there's other times where I'm like, okay, now I can stomach that.
Right, right. What do you think about that, Holly? I mean, in more so, I'll give you an example. I think in mortgage, you tell me if I'm right or wrong. In mortgage, there's a lot of people that have a lot to do with how that loan process flows
Right.
that you're not in control of. So
And I wish I was.
we all do. That's why I'm not in mortgage anymore. I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't. There are so many components
Right.
to getting a loan put together and closed. And if anybody drops the ball, it affects everybody.
Right.
And that's back when I was more immature, that I did not like the lack of control I had over the whole process. But it again, that was me, kind of like what I was saying, when you come out of corporate and you're thinking this is the way it should be, but this is the way it actually is. And so I didn't really have realistic expectations of how that process was going to work. And so I'm like, gosh, I'm doing my best, and it's still not closing because somebody or this happened or whatever. So, I mean, I think that I understand that from your perspective probably as well as anything else in professionalism, because there's so many spoons in the pot.
Right. Well, that and no scenario is exactly the same. So you're constantly dealing with, different problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's, there's no cookie cutter loan.
That's the good and the
Today,
bad of it, right?
There is no cookie cutter loan, which is a good thing because it's provided more opportunity for somebody that may not have been. They couldn't afford a home, or they couldn't qualify. Not that they couldn't afford it, but they couldn't qualify. But yeah, you've got so many other people involved, and if you're not all on the same page, then things just start to crumble. And when you find that team that you can work with, that just helps everything flow, and you just want to hold on to them, you want to grab onto them, and you
Right.
don't ever want to let them go. And I have that with my processor that I have right
That's
now.
awesome.
She is amazing, and her name's Holly, so of course she's amazing.
I mean, of course, of course. But even with yours, it's not just about the processor or the underwriter. I mean, you've got the real estate agent, you've got
Correct.
the seller, the buyer. There's so many people that
Communication.
it really is. And I think but if you go into it like I did, where if I do my job well, everything will go well, that was just unrealistic because it's not necessarily what's going to happen.
Right.
And so when you learn that I can do my job perfectly, and if someone else doesn't, I've got to be patient, understanding, and get along with them as well.
Patience and communicating. As long as you communicate, as long as you know that you've done your job,
Mm-hmm.
you've done the best that you can do, and you're not throwing somebody under the bus.
Big point,
You
right?
know, it's all about how you present that issue. So if I have a loan that is supposed to close, and for some reason, the underwriter comes back and asks for one more thing instead of saying, "Gosh, I can't believe that underwriter is asking for this."
Right.
It's all about how you present it, and
Staying positive, like
exactly.
you said before.
And
I want to cut you off right there.
yeah,
we need
sure.
we need to go and take a quick break. We're gonna stop and pay some bills, and then we'll be right back here in just a few minutes. So you guys stay tuned in.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just.
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
All right, we are back. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. James Kern with Delicate Moving. He was supposed to be here today, but he had something come up. I think he's got a sick child at home, and so I told him to stay home and take care of that. But yeah, James Kern is the owner of Delicate Moving. He's been in business over 20 years, over 20,000 successful moves, and got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, elite service provider for Home Advisor, and a 5-star rating on Angie's List. Some of the things that you get when you hire Delicate: free padding and shrink wrap, free in-home estimates, free floor protection, free wardrobe rentals. So a lot of stuff that some other companies may charge for, you're going to get that at no cost or no additional cost with Delicate Moving. Also want to give a shout out to Josh Small, WeatherTech General Contracting, remodeling, roofing, all construction and home building. If you're a real estate agent listening and you are looking for someone to have as a partner that can do all of that, I would recommend giving Josh a call. You can reach him at 469-544-3958. And then also Kelly Houston, the Goosehead lady, owner of Goosehead Insurance Agent. She would like for you to know that trust equals peace of mind. Most important thing to consider when selecting an insurance agent and finding an insurance policy that provides complete coverage and is easy on your budget is find someone that you can trust. And giving Kelly a call, you'll find out really quick that you can trust her. She knows what she's doing. She's going to put you into a policy that protects you fully, but that fits your budget as well. And then finally, I want to thank Adam and Liz Terrell with the Real Estate Triangle. They're an industry support professional group, social media group. If you're looking for a way to partner and find businesses that you can partner with, and I would suggest going on Facebook and getting connected with the Real Estate Triangle. So let's get back to where we were talking. Let's talk now about people that have made the difference in your life. Whether it's when you were young, whether you were a teenager, just getting started, parents, teachers, coaches, mentors. Give me your best story of somebody that you feel like has made the biggest difference in your life. Who wants to go first?
Well,
Brian.
I'll run with that. It's not necessarily a single story, but
Sure.
you know, I grew up as the oldest of three boys in our family. There's a 6 and an 8 year difference between me and my two younger brothers. I had a father who was awesome, and he, you know, he spent a lot of time outside of the home to provide for our family. He was an attorney, but he was a self-employed attorney, and that required him to work his butt off, basically. And everybody, you know, oh, your dad was an attorney, you were well off. Well, he did fine, he did well, but we weren't loaded, so to speak, you know. And as such, my mom had to not only raise the three of us, but also, you know, contribute financially. So she worked night shift when we were young. So there was several nights a week where I'd be kind of the head of the households, for lack of a better term. I think back now, I don't know how we made it, but then, you know, after doing that, she said, well, I want to do something that I want to do. So she put herself through night school to get her college degree. She always wanted to be a social worker for at least an elementary school or a junior high school. So to help, you know, counsel kids who were having issues.
Right.
So that's what she did. She put herself
That's
through
awesome.
college at night. She got her master's degree at night. And then she eventually ended up with that job that she wanted as a school counselor at a middle school. And so you talk about somebody who kind of guides you and is a spiritual guidance for you. I would say that's my mother, because of the hard work ethic that she displayed, and therefore I learned very much through her. And then also going after your goals. So that to me was, and I've played sports my entire life. I have coaches that have been influential. Certainly in my corporate world, I have a handful of different bosses that I can thank as well. But that one person for me would be my mother.
That's awesome. Very, very good story. Obviously, not the easiest route to go and get a degree and a master's degree.
Right.
But kudos to her. Holly, what about you?
Well, same here. Not one big story or anything, but not necessarily a human being, but God. I mean, I pray a lot.
Awesome.
You know,
That does make the difference.
It does. It does. I give to Him what I can't control. I would say that one of the most influential people in my life is my brother. I've got two brothers. They're both very successful. They're just really good humans. But my one brother is the one that kind of pushed me back into, you know, getting into the mortgage industry and taking that leap of faith.
Okay.
And he's probably the most influential as far as that goes. My dad, his work ethic was like no other. And then my mom, I mean, she's got such a giving heart. She accepts everyone. She taught me to be that person that accepts everybody. You know, the more the merrier. You're having Thanksgiving dinner and you invite everyone.
Right.
You know, so I don't really have just one person, I guess I could say, that is influential.
Right.
In my
No,
life.
I think we all have, in different areas, different people that have impacted us in different ways. I mean, we have, there's people that I've never met that just watching how they approach things business wise. I mean, they're kind of someone I study, so they may not even know that they're making an impact or having an influence, but reading what they do and how they do it, and you know, different books that I read. I mean, I sometimes take people, and it's kind of funny. I'm like, they have no idea, and I don't think people do on sometimes when they write books like that, how many people that they're impacting, and
Jack
how.
Canfield.
Huh?
Jack Canfield.
Yeah, I mean, just you take something out of a book, and it's just it can make the difference in the situation that you're in currently, and for forever. It's just like I was talking about Linda, the one that told me in chaos is opportunity. I mean, that's something that at 26 years old that impacted me, and never forgotten it,
Right.
and have to remind myself of it quite often. That, you know what, it's not bad. It's just that you haven't figured out where the good is yet. And so it's people like that that have really impacted my life. I think, some of the books that I'm reading right now, and we've talked a lot about this probably because those are the type of things that I'm thinking about, but it is the mindset and personal development and how strong that makes us in leading in our business. Because, I mean, anybody that's ever started work for themselves realizes the challenges. I mean,
Sure.
it is, people say that it's working for yourself is overrated. Can be. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it, but with that comes a lot of the weight. And if you're not mentally prepared to handle the surprises and failures, and there's gonna be failures, how do you overcome those? I think those are things that really can help us make the difference as far as growing and building our business. Wanted to talk also because part of what we're doing with the show is talking about our communities, and you did something around the holidays that I thought was really cool, and I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Oh, sure, yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, this would have started right before Thanksgiving. Actually, it was right after Halloween is when we started this. And I'm gonna give a shout out to my business development manager, Whitney Wade, who really took the bull by the horns and ran with this opportunity. But essentially, what we did was reached out to, we vetted several different organizations and said, we want to help somebody, not exactly sure how we want to do it, but we want to do a gift drive of some sort. So Whitney partnered up with the Dallas CASA organization, which is an organization that helps youths that are in the court system. So underprivileged, and helps find kids anywhere from infants up to 18 years old who may not have a full Christmas or holiday season. So we took it on to basically find sponsors for these youths in the Dallas CASA program to get a gift list together. So pair up that gift list, that child, with a sponsor. So we ended up doing, in a pretty short period of time, basically a week's time. Again, I'll give props to Whitney for doing a lot of this heavy lifting. We partnered up with 72 different individual sponsors to make Christmas happen for 72 youths.
Wow, that's awesome.
So along with that came collecting the gifts. So we rented a truck, and most of Whitney's garage and living room and some of my office were completely crammed with gifts. So we loaded up a truck and brought it down to the Dallas CASA organization, and luckily they helped us unload it. So
right.
But yeah, it was an awesome event. Helped out 72 individual kids have a Christmas with at least gifts. And really looking forward, we'd like to do at least 2 of those events a year. So I think we're going to do that again in the Christmas season, and then we're going to try to find one in the first half of the year as well.
Okay.
Amazing.
Tell me a little bit. What you do know about Dallas CASA? What all do they do as far as the community?
So that's it's taking kids that are in the court system, so their parents are no longer available or around, whether they're in jail or gone, and they take possession of those children and assign them to different parental households. And again, a lot of times underprivileged, they don't have the same things that a normal or a core family would have.
Right.
So that's essentially what the Dallas CASA organization does. And because of that youth impact, that's kind of why we focused on partnering up
Right.
with them.
So even if it wasn't Christmas, say, school supplies, clothing, anything like that, those would be something that Dallas CASA would be receptive
Yes,
to if anybody was wanting to help.
Absolutely. There's other opportunities to get support that way.
Okay.
On top of just monetary donations.
All right. That's really cool. I remember watching all of that on social media, which I'm a big fan of. But it was cool. So let's kind of go in a different direction now. I want to talk about some things that some principles, some business strategies that you've committed yourself to, that you've learned over the years, and you feel like makes the difference in not only the success of your business, but how it's impacting your brand, how you're able to grow and reach different goals. So who wants to start first? Don't be quiet now.
Well, I mean, I'll throw something out there that, and this isn't uncommon from what I've found, just based on some of the networking groups that I'm already in. They always get pretty full in January because people kind of rededicate themselves to the face-to-face networking. But personally, that's one of the things that I'm looking to do for myself and really for my referral partners is build those bonds from a referral standpoint and a networking standpoint. So finding business partners that are very like-minded and very motivated and really enhancing and really building those relationships.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I come from mortgage companies where they provide you leads all day long, and now doing this on my own, I'm branding myself and same thing, building the relationships and trying to, provide value
Right.
to people instead of just being an order taker.
Right.
Quote me a rate, lock it, and close my loan.
And so you do something that's really unique, because and share that. Just talk about that a little bit, about how you work to develop a financial plan for them.
Yeah, so an example, I guess, would be the best way to do it. I've got, say a borrower that has $600 worth of outgoing obligations every month,
Mhm.
and they've got some equity in their home. We take the equity, we pay off those debts. Now they've got, lower mortgage payment and no debt, and now they've got $600 free every month that they can use to put towards something. So what I do is I put a plan together for them to show them how to either pay their mortgage off faster, or if they're young and they have kids that are going to be going to college soon, we put money aside for college. If they want to, they want that nice car, the brand new car that they've always dreamed of having. I show them how they can get into that car
After the house.
Yeah. So there's so many things that you can do with a mortgage with equity, and that you don't really typically think about whenever you're searching for a mortgage. Instead of just looking at a rate.
Right.
A rate may be higher, but your obligations are lower, and you're able to pay everything off faster. So in turn, now you're looking at something lower. So every situation is different, and putting together a financial plan for somebody is one of the ways I like to, be different. I like to provide more value to my clients by doing that.
Okay. So we talked a little bit before about mindset. What are some habits that you guys have that you feel like are very important to what's gotten you where you are now, as far as habits of productivity?
Coffee.
Well,
Lots
that's
of
a great
lots of coffee.
that starts the rest of them. That's for sure. That's the fuel that's going to get the rest of them going. Do you have anything that you would like to share with others that you think that, I implemented this 6 months ago, maybe this year, that has really impacted your productivity or how you do business?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about all the shows that we've done and a lot of the topics we've talked about, there's so many things that are relevant and so many things to pick out. But I go back to some of the little things that I think one of the etiquette might have been one of the
Business
shows.
etiquette,
Yeah,
right.
business etiquette. I go back to that one and I think about, I referred to my corporate experience earlier in the show, and really there's a lot of business etiquette things that just the consistency of doing it the right way that I really think makes the difference. It's not necessarily anything that I'm doing differently this year, but it's paying attention to the small things, like you set a meeting time, you're there on time. 5 minutes early is on time, or 15 minutes, whatever your mantra is, but early is on time. Communication, follow up, appropriate dress, that all that stuff I think is and the consistency of that is something that makes the difference, and that we'll continue to focus on
Right.
this year.
And I think we're all a work in progress. But like you
Absolutely.
said, just being aware of opportunities.
Yep.
And going, you know what, I need to implement that. I mean, some of the things I just pulled up here, we've talked about mindset, habits of productivity, planning and time management, which I think is key. I think if you, besides coffee, if your day is planned, then the habits, the business etiquette, all that kind of flows even better. So, but business etiquette, I think, is in the industry that we're in the real estate support. I think that there has been a lack of, or not as much attention paid to the importance of it and how that impacts your brand. Some of the things that I've talked about is behavioral branding. We talk about, everybody talks about branding. Every business owner I talk about, when they talk about, I want a brand, and they talk about a logo, they talk about a tagline. But when you are the face of the business that you run, and when you talked earlier about you've got to work on your business and you got to work in the business, working in your business, behavioral branding becomes front and center.
Yep.
Who, first impressions, when I meet Brian, what do I see? What do I think? How's that first impression go? And I think that we underestimate the importance of our behavioral brand. What's a person going to think about me because I am my business? I think a lot of us want to hide sometimes behind our logo instead of going, it's me. It's the buck stops here. All that responsibility, what we talked about in the beginning of the show, that it's up to you, right? And so is that brand and the behavioral brand.
Well, being relational instead of transactional.
Absolutely. I mean, that's huge. And we don't have the conversations I think that we all need to be having about what that really looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for us to say I'm relational.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nice guy. I can be I'm relational. But when it comes down to, we're usually all really relational when there's a transaction going on.
Mm-hmm. The computer can do a transaction.
Right. Well, and that's why things are going more to automation.
Right.
But automation can't build relationships.
Exactly.
And we all want them.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the same example all the time. When you call a company, do you want to press 14 buttons and maybe not get to talk to someone?
Absolutely not.
Sounds awesome. Sign me up.
But yet we all are wanting to automate our businesses to do just that. And I think there has to be that integration. But I mean, I do. I really
There's
believe
got to be balance.
there's got to be balance.
You have to have that automation to survive in this industry, but you have to be human. You have to have that interaction. You have to provide value.
Well, it's like the saying goes: no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm-hmm.
And running everything through automation doesn't seem. I may care a lot,
They don't
but
know
how
that.
do they know that?
Exactly.
There's no automation to make them
Right.
see and feel.
An
that.
emoji.
The heart emoji. Yeah, come on.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
No, Lennon, I think you kind of hit on it with behavioral branding, and you have to be mindful of it, but you almost have to. It has to be second nature, where all the things that as you've practiced over the years. Well, I mean, everybody's in business in some way, shape, or form. It almost has to be second nature, where you stop and think about it, but you also get to that point where the people who do it right and where it makes the difference is it's just second nature.
It is second nature.
Right.
But I think even with second nature, because I think that there's a lot of good people out there, but sometimes business can just become really heavy, right?
Right.
And we kind of get distracted and we get off our path of what is second nature. Sometimes we're putting out fires
Right.
and we're really intense, and that's not who we are, but that just happens to be the time of the moment. And I think that we can get caught in that routine, and it can actually change our mentality. It's not that we're not nice people, but you're fighting for your business every day, right?
Yeah. No,
And-
very true.
And without taking that time of self-reflection at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, whatever it may be, going, how am I coming across to everybody?
I do that
Yeah.
daily. I do it daily.
You have to.
Right.
You have to, because it's just, you said something before, and I'm not going to say it right, but it's just how your attitude reflects on other people, and it can elevate them. It can bring a person that's having a bad day
Absolutely.
into a good day just that quick.
Right.
And that's the best behavioral brand you can have.
Yeah.
If you're the person that's lifting everybody's spirits and making everybody's days better, that's hard. That's a big burden to carry sometimes, right? Because sometimes we just want somebody to make our day
It
better.
is, but it's the
The
most
old-
rewarding.
The old glass. This glass isn't half full, but I'll say it's half full. Notice the branding on it, the difference, but it's water in there. But yeah, the glass is half full approach. Absolutely, you're right. It elevates. You know, your interactions with everybody. It elevates.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a great point.
And I think that we get so caught up in the problems of life and business and things like that, and we forget that the fact that we get paid to solve problems. Every one of us.
Yep.
Mhm.
We don't realize that. I mean,
Everybody has a problem.
well, what would my problem be if I came to you looking for a mortgage? I need money. That's my problem.
Exactly.
Can you fix that?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
And
find
the
a
better
way. Let's
and
find
the
a way.
better you are at fixing it,
Mhm.
that's where your value comes from.
Right.
Right.
Well, and somebody may want to buy a house. They think, well, I don't have a problem. Well, you do have a problem. You don't have that house.
That's
You
the
don't
problem.
have the house. That's the problem. Let me
Without
fix it.
money,
Exactly.
and if you don't have the money, you need a loan.
Right.
Where do you get a
So,
loan?
Doesn't mean that a problem is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It's something that
There's
just
something
needs-
you need to fix.
Exactly.
And you have the talent, the ability, and the knowledge to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where our value comes from. And the more responsibility that we're willing to take on and can handle, that increases our value, and that also increases and improves our brand. So we've got about 8 minutes left. So tell me something that's tell me something I don't know about you, Brian.
Boy, Lennon, where do we say 8 minutes? We're gonna need more time than that.
Well, we'll
Little fun fact for you.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned earlier that I'm from Chicago. I grew up in the Chicago area. As such, I was raised correctly as a Chicago Cub fan. Okay, so for any White Sox fans out there, sorry. But little fun fact. So I grew up a lifelong Cub fan. 2003, I was lucky enough to get the phone call to actually purchase season tickets. So there was a waiting list that was enormous back then. Cubs got good, and the list got even longer. So it was an honor to get that call. But the reason I bring it up, fun fact, I actually threw out the first pitch at a game at Wrigley Field.
Really?
Now, it wasn't an important game, but it was to me. So,
Absolutely.
kidding.
yeah, so I got to throw out
Memories.
the first pitch. Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah.
Awesome.
There's a little fun fact for you.
And who are they playing?
Like I said, I don't remember the details. I
You
just
were so excited about throwing the first pitch out. The rest didn't matter.
I
Don't know if they won, lost.
I believe they won. I mean, it all
bonus.
started with the first pitch. Come on.
Well, okay. All right. So you set the tone, right?
That's right.
What about you, Holly?
You know, I love to make fun of myself.
Do you?
So instead of a fun fact about me, I guess I'll tell you a little story. My husband will probably laugh. But I love to make fun of myself because if I can make somebody else laugh
Mm-hmm.
at something that I've done, then, you know, that makes me smile.
Right.
And so there was Christmas Day several years back. We were driving, and I am very intelligent. I'm not stupid. Just got to get that out there. But because this story may make me sound like I am. But so we're driving to my dad's house, and we're driving down 121, and it was Christmas Day, and so, you know, everything's closed, and I look out the window, and I'm just, you know, kind of thinking, and I see this parking lot, and it is so full. There's so many cars, and I'm thinking, wow, that place is really busy. Gosh, and it's Christmas. And I'm thinking this in my head, so I'm not saying this out loud, but then I realize it's a car dealership. And So of course, I want to make my husband laugh, and so of course I look over at him and I just start cracking up, and he says, "What's so funny?" And I said, "Well, let me just tell you what I was just thinking." And so I told him the story, and now he will not let me live it down.
Oh, I bet.
That's awesome.
Well, we won't either from now on. Thanks for
Right,
sharing.
now we know. So
Uh,
wait, no, you're not gonna get off the hook that easy.
Oh,
Share something with us that we don't know about you.
oh gosh. Something that wouldn't incriminate me, right?
Well, maybe partially.
I will. All right, so I'll tell you one of my favorite stories. And how much time do I have? I got plenty of time. So, graduated high school and wanted to go play football in college. And I tell the story. I weighed about 140 pounds and ran like a 5'1" 40. And so I get over there, and I'm a walk-on, obviously. They don't give too many scholarships to
What position were you playing?
defensive back. I played
Okay.
receiver in high school. I was playing defensive back.
Okay.
And so I get to school, and my dad wanted me to play, and it's something I wanted to do. And so I get over there, and I realize really quick that I am way out of my league.
Mm-hmm.
And but I didn't want to quit because I didn't want to disappoint my dad. And so after the first 2 weeks, they call everybody in and they give you your individual evaluation. And the coach actually, he looked at me and he goes, "Son, you're just not a football player." He goes, "You need to just give up this dream and go get your degree and move on." And I just looked at him. I knew he didn't like me, which it wasn't a lot to like.
Shocking.
Yeah, no joke. I didn't give him a whole lot to work with, so I looked at him. I said, "Are you kicking me off?" He goes, "No." He goes, "You can stay. We all the blocking dummies, we're fine with that." Long story short, after that fall, he got fired that spring. The next fall, I was starting.
Nice.
And
So that new coach wasn't around long either. If he started, I'm just kidding.
actually, it was the guy that ended up being the head coach. They moved him over. But it was kind of the transition that I went through. There was another, we're talking about people that make an impact on your life. This guy's name's John Juno, and he was a senior. And for some reason, I had developed a friendship with some of the starters. And again, I have no idea why. Why did I get allowed to be in that circle? But he was having a conversation with me at dinner one night in the cafeteria, and he's like, "You just got to decide if you're happy enough being on the picture or if you want to be a contributor."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "You did what you came here to do. You can say you're on a college football team, but now you got to decide if you want to contribute."
Next level. Yep.
And so that's really all he said to me.
It's powerful.
It was powerful. I mean, it hit me hard, and I'm like, I felt like I'd achieved something. And so then I go back and I'm like, all right, so what do I do now? And basically, there were 5 people ahead of me on the depth chart. So I just took number 5, and every day I would work out next to him. When we ran sprints, I'd run sprints next to him until I beat him in everything.
Nice.
Well, guess what happened?
Went up to 4.
Yep. And I just kept working my way up the ladder. And so, I mean, that's really my story of I guess accomplishment, where it kind of started, because I mean, when I got over there, I was satisfied being on the team picture.
Right.
I could show all my friends, "Hey, look at me."
Yeah.
I was there. But then be able to come out and be a starter and then end up on scholarship before, actually after the first semester of playing. But
That's
was
awesome.
It's, for me, it set the mindset that just because somebody tells you you're no good, and I mean, I don't hold it against him.
Yeah.
That's what he saw.
Right. No.
And until I decided to change and started making those moves, he was right. And thank God for John Juno that came to me and said, "It's time for you to contribute if you're going to do anything." But it was so funny because I'd go with those seniors to the cafeteria, and I would just, whatever they put on their plate, I'd put on mine. And they'd go back and I'd go back, and I would be there probably an hour after they left because I'm still trying to stuff. But I'm just like, you know what? If you want to be them, imitate them.
Right. It goes back to the several shows ago that we talked about that. Who's your mentor? What do they do? How do you emulate them?
You're absolutely right. And I'm just like, and that's in doing that as I started gaining weight and I started working out. I remember being in the weight room with them, and they got so annoyed with me because I was so weak, and they had put they'd have 300-400 pounds on doing bench, and then they'd have to rip it all down to 100 and something pounds for me. And finally, they just said they went down to 225, and they said, we're not going any lower than that. You'll either learn to get it or, you know. And so they would unrack it and it'd crush me. And I just remember the day that I pushed it back up.
Nice.
And I mean, and what was so cool is they were so excited for me.
Sure.
But it is for me, and they've always meant so much to me, those guys, because they took someone that, again, they could have just said, you mean nothing. And I mean, I give everything that I accomplished to them for pushing me and helping me along.
That's awesome.
But that's my story. So I started 3 years after that, and miss it every day. I'd still be playing if I wasn't too old and broke. So, all right. Well, we're out of time. We ate up that clock. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Hope that you got to know these guys and ladies better. We've got some outstanding sponsors and co-hosts. And so we're going to be doing some different things for them to help you get to know them, because they really can help you make a difference in your business. So we want to say thanks for tuning in. And from all the folks here at KVGI and The Difference, don't forget, it's hard to make a difference until you're consistent in doing the things to make the difference.